As we continue our Holy Week reflections, we look at the arrest of Jesus in the garden, reading from Matthew's Gospel, chapter 26, beginning at verse 47. While he was still speaking, Judas, one of the 12, arrived. With him was a large crowd, armed with swords and clubs, sent from the chief priests and the elders of the people. Now the betrayer had arranged a signal with them. "The one I kiss is the man. Arrest him." Going at once to Jesus, Judas said, "Greetings, Rabbi," and kissed him. Jesus replied, "Do what you came for, friend." Then the men stepped forward, seized Jesus, and arrested him. With that, one of Jesus' companions reached for his sword, drew it out, and struck the servant of the high priest, cutting off his ear. "Put your sword back in its place," Jesus said to him, "for all who draw the sword will die by the sword. Do you think I cannot call on my Father, and he will at once put at my disposal more than 12 legions of angels? But how then would the scriptures be fulfilled that say it must happen in this way?" In that hour, Jesus said to the crowd, "Am I leading a rebellion that you have come out with swords and clubs to capture me? Every day I sat in the temple courts teaching, and you did not arrest me. But this has all taken place that the writings of the prophets might be fulfilled." Then all the disciples deserted him and fled. Jesus, to this point, has been a problem for Jewish officials and religious leaders. His mission as the fulfiller of the scriptures for the purpose of restoring humanity's relationship with God clashed with the religious construct of the day. People had built their lives around a religious order that was familiar to them, which was deeply rooted in Judaism and Old Testament biblical law. Jesus' coming threatened that order, and in the religious authorities' mind, threatened what was godly and sensible. They could not connect the Old Testament teaching with the person of Jesus Christ as the fulfillment of that sacred text. Jesus was not understood as the fulfillment of biblical prophecy, but the impediment to it. The irony of these events is the realization that the efforts of the religious community to preserve itself in its present form was that same community that kept people from God. They rejected the very God they believed themselves to be aligned with. Because they rejected the message of Jesus and who he is, they rejected God. We live in perilous times. It is as it was in the times of the Apostle Paul when he wrote in 1 Corinthians 1:18, "The message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing. But to us who are being saved, it is the power of God." Among the many dangers we face is the risk of accommodating our systems at the expense of the gospel, of accommodating the world by deflecting any tension regarding the message of the cross. It is easier to numb the message of the cross than it is to defend it. For the people of the biblical story, theirs was a story of longing and hoping for deliverance, and he had finally come. Their identity is being restored right before their eyes. God's incredible love for them is loudly proclaimed and broadly encompassing through the story of the cross and the resurrection. Oppression by authorities loses its bite when Jesus announces, as recorded in John 10:10, "I have come that you may have life, and to the full." The gospel message of Jesus for the world is pronounced and declared plainly for all who will listen. Salvation is plainly declared in the message of the Apostle Paul in Romans 10 and verse 9. "So if you believe in your heart that God raised Jesus from the pit of death, and if you voice your allegiance by confessing the truth that Jesus is Lord, then you will be saved." The old story of the cross of Jesus is always new. It is still relevant and still life-changing. The author of the book of Hebrews was right to say in chapter 4 and verse 12, the Word of God is alive and active. It is transformative in power and scope. When we feel there's no hope Jesus gives us hope. When we don't feel any purpose in our lives, Jesus shows us purpose in following him. When we can't make sense of the pieces of our lives, Jesus puts the pieces all together and shows us the tapestry and beauty for which we were created. May God continue to bless you in this journey to the cross.
To see the dawn of the darkest day, Christ on the road to Calvary, tried by sinful men, torn and beaten, then nailed to a cross of wood. Oh, to see the pain written on your face, bearing the awesome weight of sin, every bitter thought and every evil deed, crowning your blood-stained brow. There's the power of the cross. Christ became sin for us, took the blame, bore the wrath. We stand forgiven at the cross. Now the daylight flees, now the ground beneath quakes as its maker bows his head. Curtain torn in two, and dead raised to life, finished the victory cry. There's the power of the cross. Christ became sin for us, took the blame, bore the wrath. We stand forgiven at the cross. Oh, to see my name written in the wounds, for through your suffering I am